What up, everybody, and welcome to Baz on Blades. My name is Baz, and I talk about blades, and today we're actually going to talk about a blade. Recently, I did a review of the current production of the K-Bar USN Mk1, the Mk1 Navy utility knife, not a fighting knife. It was originally used as a utility knife, 5-inch blade or thereabouts, 5.5 inches. This is the most current production from K-Bar. It's in 1095 with a craton handle, steel pommel, steel single guard on this one. A very handy utility knife with a fantastic shape to the handle, nice palm swell in both directions, 3-dimensional in that craton, non-slip, a fabulous design. In fact, I carried this recently on a camping trip, and I did not end up using it for anything, but it was there in case I needed it. What we've got in here today is I have an older gentleman that has brought me his World War II era Camillus made Mk1 Navy utility knife. He brought it to me to refurbish. I had to do a light refurbish on it. It had developed some moderate rust, and it had pitted a little bit, and the leather on the handle was extremely dry. It is soaking up oil like a sponge, guys. And I thought it would be interesting to take a look at this knife. Now, this is, I have been researching for the last hour as far as the markings and dating this knife. The very first Mk1s, I believe, had a bright blade finish. This one, I believe, is in a blued blade finish on the 1095, although the bluing is mostly worn off and it is heavily patinaed. It has a beautiful patina. Everything on this knife that is steel has a beautiful patina on it. I was very careful about removing the rust and not the patina. It had a large swath of rust here at the tip, the back side of the blade, underneath the swedge here. And you can see it did get pitted a little bit. You know, they missed that, didn't take care of it. 1095, you got to take care of it. It's a straight up carbon steel. It did have some rust and pitting along the edge here, and I believe this knife has the original edge on it. And look at that, it is pretty much a zero grind primary bevel. There is pretty much no secondary bevel on this. Look at that. That is a heck of a grinding job for a knife that was being produced in the hundreds of thousands from multiple different contractors, Camillus just being one. And we are talking about in the mid to late 40s. That is a very slicey grind. Now, the owner wanted me to resharpen this knife, and I don't know about that, guys. I do not know about that. I'm going to touch base with him on that and advise against it. This knife is in fabulous shape. Now, it does have a little bit of dinging up here on this part. I got to watch out because it will still cut me. It is still sharp enough to cut, but you can see it's got some impacting right up on that edge up in this section going into the belly. And I could easily sharpen that off. I could just touch off right on the apex with a very high grit stone and not really sharpen, really not trying to remove any metal, but just refining the apex a little, and it would be very quickly very sharp. But I'm not sure I want to do that. these are collectible knives. And while they are not worth thousands of dollars, if he does have the original sheath for this, as good a shape as this knife is in, it could be worth $200 or $300. Not an exorbitant amount, but like I say, there was a shit ton of these made. They were made from World War II up to and including the beginning of the Vietnam era. I would say there was millions of these knives made, guys. I would just about guess there was. Certainly up in the high hundreds of thousands to be issued across all that time frame in the Navy as a utility knife. Not a fighting knife, a utility knife. A lot of Navy men got these knives. So, it's in 1095 high carbon steel, and you can see again, that is such a beautiful, beautiful patina. It's just beautiful. It is just beautiful, guys. Now, we did have quite a bit of rust down here around this double guard at the joiner between the ricasso of the blade and the double guard, and that is common on guarded knives. I did have to remove that. I did use a brass brush to remove that. But even the guard is fully patinaed. There is just some of that parkerizing left, and then there's some patina in there. I was able to get all the rust off of it without being very intrusive on that patina and what was left of the bluing. I was very, very, very happy with that. When you are refurbishing or you're, I don't know what you want to call it, glamorizing or saving, let's just say I was saving this blade from rust without trying to take any of that patina off. It's such a fine line. It is such a fine line. I would rather take somebody's $1,000 custom knife and sharpen it, put an edge on it, than I would to worry over something like this. You can see there's some pitting here on the cross guard. Look at that nice black patina on it. Yeah. The leather on the handle was so dry. It was so dry. I have oiled this handle at least 4 separate occasions, and I can put oil on it and it will soak it up instantly. Instantly, it was so dry. But it's tight. It's in good shape. The shape is fantastic. It does have a deep ding here. That's just natural. That's leather, guys. We are talking about a knife that could potentially, it's decades old. It's just potentially World War II production knife from the mid to late 40s, and this is 2020. You're talking about, this knife is 60 to 80 years old. That is real years. Older than the majority of people that will watch this video. It is in fantastic shape. Now, this is supposed to be brown leather, but as leather does, it absorbs the oils from your hands, from the environment. I would just about bet in the 40s on a naval vessel, literally everything on it was covered in oil or it would rust. I would guarantee it. So if you did any type of utilitarian work, your hands would have had oil on them. You would have been handling your knife, using it, whether it's opening a crate or cutting some rigging or cutting some rope or whatever you were cutting with it, continuously oil soaking in and darkening that leather, and it almost is just black. It almost looks like a black leather handle that's got some of the black worn off where you can see brown. But that is not at all what it is. It is a brown leather handle that is just aged and colored towards blackness. Now we go down here to the pommel, the butt end. This is a plastic butt. It is Bakelite. It is a hard and fairly brittle plastic. Majority of the time, if you see these knives and they are damaged, one of the most common types of damage will be this Bakelite butt end. The pommel, the butt cap will be cracked, chipped, broken. It will be all messed up. Now this one is, you can tell, it's scratched all over. It's got decades of use on it, guys, but it is not cracked, it's not busted, it's not loose. There is nothing loose in this handle. It is still just as tight as the day that it was made. In that respect, this knife is in excellent condition. It is a joy. It is a joy to handle this knife just because of how good a shape it's in. Yeah, it's old. Yeah, it's been used, but it is in such good shape. Let's take a look down here at the butt end. You can see the way these were made is they have sort of a screw tang construction. Now on the newer versions made by Ka-Bar, you're looking at a butt cap that is through pinned. So that means that the tang comes down, it has a hole drilled in it. They take this butt cap and press it on against this craton, and they're putting pressure. They have to press against pressure, and while it's pressed, they drive a pin through. So the friction of the pin being set and the pressure is what holds that on. But you can see the tail end of the tang right here. It will have a hole drilled through. That's the new way that it's done. But here in the 40s, this is the way it was done. It's a screw tang, a steel screw tang. It has a brass nut, and it is set up recessed. The nut is recessed. The tang does stick out just a little bit, but the nut itself is recessed and set up dual notch for a spanner wrench. That was the only way you could get to it. And again, back on this end here, I didn't have to do anything. I did not want to touch this Bakelite because it will scratch, and it's in very good condition. It is just, it's history. This is history right here. This is not a newfangled CNC machined work of art. This is era specific knife making from the 40s. And you know what? Back in the 40s, this would have been a bad mamma jamma right here. This is a heck of a knife. It is patterned after a 5-inch hunting blade. That's actually what the Navy specified when they put out the contract for these knives, for the development of the Mark I. It is basically a 5-inch hunter's blade, and then they specified as far as the build with the guard and the stacked leather handles and the pommel, pommel material and all that. And there's like 30 different versions of this historical piece. Now, I'm not even talking about the new Ka-Bar made stuff. This is not a historical piece. This is modern production from Ka-Bar, but I'm talking about the historical builds, the World War II contract builds of this knife. There's like 30 different versions of it. There was 5 or 6 or 7 different companies that made these knives under contract. That's the way things were done. That's the way military procurements were taken care of. They needed these in such numbers so fast for so many men that one company just could not produce them. So they had all these different companies that were contracted, pre-existing manufacturing companies that came in. So you're going to see, multiple different types of markings between the companies, multiple different butt cap materials. There's aluminum butt caps. There's different shapes. There's different versions of the guard. This is a double guard here, and then there's also single guards like on this K-bar, this modern K-bar. Even within, let's just say Camillus, just Camillus's production, there are many different markings as far as the way it was marked. Here on the face side, you can see it is marked USN Mk1. Also on the face side, you can find these with no marking at all. You can find them with just a very large font of just USN on the front and no Mark 1 markings. On the back, you can find them marked Camillus, New York, the early production stuff. Late production, like in the 60s going up into the 70s, the Vietnam era, I think they are just marked Camillus without the New York marking. So there is just so many iterations of this. I researched for about an hour and I could not make sense out of anything. I did a search on, different markings in the history of the knife, and I went to a forum, a military edged weapon forum, where very knowledgeable people were on that forum, and I'm talking about people that write books about military edged weaponry, so they are knowledgeable people, and I could not get a straight answer. The reason is there were multiple contracts. There was a 43 contract, there was a 1944 contract, then there were later contracts, and there were crossover periods where they would have already had like very early production on the 43 contract. They were bright finished, and of course they had problems with rust. So the military came and they said, hey, we've got to do some sort of finish on these, and that's where you saw bluing come in and parkerizing. And when they changed over, the companies that were manufacturing these, they didn't just go with all the bright finished blades and throw those away. They used those until they ran out of them and then phased in the new requirement, the coated blades. And there were some companies that initially started out using bluing or parkerization. And then there was some that didn't. And then there were changes in the guards, and then there were changes in the pommels, and then there were, it's so hard to date these, because this knife right here, it could be, a blade from 1944 that's put together with a pommel and produced in 1945. I don't know, guys. And you know what, to me, it doesn't even matter. The beauty of this knife is in the wear finish on it, the lifetime finish, the use finish of this knife, all of this beautiful patina that is on it. It is absolutely beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful. And every bit of the steel having patina on it it's just wonderful. It is wonderful. That's not a fancy new piece of brass that's back here. That is not fancy new piece of brass at all. And you can see, I don't think this the tang end would have been beat to crap like that brand new. I am pretty sure that is from use. Which is, to me, it's a miracle that you could hammer or have any type of impact with this at all and not bust this Bakelite pommel. Bakelite is notoriously brittle. It is notoriously brittle. That is a very, very early plastic. Very early. There's no fiber reinforced nylon going on here, guys. That is just a straight up, very hard, very brittle plastic. So it just amazes me that this knife has made it this far in life to 2020, and it is in such good condition. Now, how much was this knife used? I don't know. I don't know at all. It does show obvious signs of use. There are some impacts from it being beat around. There is some impact here on this guard that has displaced metal. I don't know that this pitting is all from rust. It could be from impact and it later rusted within that. Or it could just be from rust. That's straight up carbon steel there. And then again, there is some impact in here on the edge, at this forward part of the edge going into the belly. And that edge just, it super impressed me, guys. It's super, super impressed. Let's see how thick that is behind the edge. Something that they didn't give a crap about, I'm sure, in 1944, but in 2020, you know, if it's not 15 to 19 thousandths behind the edge, we just don't even want to have anything to do with it. Let's see here. Let's zero out the calipers. And we will check this out. It is, oh my goodness, guys. It is, I've got 15 thousandths behind the edge down here before it falls off to the micro bevel on the edge. Here we are. We're going to pull off towards the edge. It's going to fall off right at 15 thousandths. So about 15 thousandths behind the edge. Imagine a Navy utility knife, 60 to 80 years old, just 15 thousandths behind the edge, and it is still in that good a condition. Oh my goodness. I would say that this knife, like most knives in the military, really did not see a lot of use. Now, after military service, who knows? A lot of these knives, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of these knives saw extended civilian use. They were still very solid knives for hunting and for camping and for any type of utilitarian use. You know, being patterned after a 5-inch hunting blade in a clip point, with a nice amount of belly here, a nice amount of straight edge. It's nice and thin behind the edge. Who knows how much use this thing has seen. It is so, so beautiful. Anyway, guys, I wanted to let you see, it's been a joy. It's been a joy to work with this knife, to agonize over how to take care of the rust issue without removing the patina. That's all part of it. And, you know, I think I did a fair job on it, but I had a great subject to work with. All right, guys, there is a look at a nice World War II era Camillus made USN Mk1. As always, thank you very much for taking the time to watch one of my videos. God bless all of you, and we will talk to you again.